Good afternoon, everyone. So today marks the third day of our FDP. So I welcome you all for the third day. I hope everyone is ready for this third session. And just before starting, those who have not submitted the assignment, please submit it, because now every day we will be having one assignment, and on the final day the one complete document. So why we are insisting on this assignment is, if you at least start working on it, you will get to know, okay, what are the kind of difficulties, whatever difficulties you are facing, you can uh, right away ask the resource person who can help you with how to solve it and go forward. So it is better if you take little time and try to complete that smaller assignments. It is well and good. So let's not delay further. So Apoorva ma'am, shall we start?
Yes, ma'am, we can start. Thank you. Hi, all. Good afternoon. So let's get started with today's session. So today we'll be looking into how we can typeset our text as well as look into equations. Um, so there were a couple of questions that were asked in the um, WhatsApp group. So let me start by addressing that. So first thing is, there was a snapshot of this region and we were asked to explain again. So to the person who asked the question, like, could you please say which part of it would you want me to explain regarding the packages or the use package command? Right. So anyways, let me just give a brief summary of this area. So if we would want to use a library that is externally defined, by default, LaTex gives us one set of commands. However, we can extend its functionality by using libraries. Okay. So in this case, we have different libraries here. Here, hyperf, enum item, blind text, doing bunch of other
Apoorva
things.
ma'am, just
Mhm.
a minute. Ma'am, are you sharing the screen, the browser?
Oh, sorry. I thought I had shared. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
You should be able to see the screen now.
Yes ma'am, you can see.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay. So this area, right, this use package area, there was a question with a snapshot of this, right? So if we would want to extend LaTeX functionality, we can do so by incorporating libraries in our document. To do that, we need to explicitly say it using the use package command. The input to the use package command is the package name. Furthermore, we can give optional inputs to our package. For instance, here we are saying, hey LaTeX, use hyperref to give us clickable references, right? So if we do not use these packages, we cannot, let me recompile this. Yeah, we cannot click it. Do you see this hand icon that I get as soon as I go to the contents? If I click on it, it goes to the corresponding section. As well as any cross references that we have, if we click on it, it goes to the corresponding section. So this clickable references is possible using hyperref. Now, hyperref, if I remove this optional input and execute my code, the default behavior of hyperref is to give this red bounding box. Do you see this? So all the clickable links are indicated using this red bounding box. So say I do not want this red bounding box, then I give this optional input as hide links. So you can look at into other optional inputs by looking into the packages documentation, right? And the place where you find the package documentation is something called as CTAB. So head over to CTAB, type in the package name, right? Click on search, and then you will get the package documentation, which you can take a look at. Okay. So there are multiple options, right? So play around with it. So hide links is one such option. Now coming to blind text, we use the blind text package to add dummy text in a document. Okay, so when we import a package, there can be two changes. One, the way our document behaves can change, and second, the commands that are available to us changes. For instance, using the hyperref package, we get the autoref command, and using the blind text package, we get the corresponding blind text command. Now, if I remove the package from which I'm picking up the command and then execute it, the problem is I get an error saying undefined control sequence, right? So always ensure you have the use package command of that particular package active. All right. So just a quick recap of yesterday's session. So we basically looked in depth into list, right? So we looked into unordered lists using bullet points. We also looked into numbered list, which uses this numbering. We also see how, so in order to use, okay, can anyone answer? In order to use unnumbered list, like a bullet list, unordered list, what do I get? Which command do I use? So I would like to generate this bullet points. Itemize, right? If I would want a numbered list such as this, what would I use? Enumerate. Perfect. Right? We also saw in order to get entry in the list, what command do I use? So in order to tell LaTeX, I would like to start a new entry. What command do I use inside the itemize or the enumerate environment? The item command, right? Now we also saw the item command can take optional inputs and we can temporarily change the behavior for particular entries, right? We also saw a third type of list called the descriptions. So it gives us the use case for this is word description. In order to, if we were to do it in Word, we would have to like make sure we boldface it, give the appropriate spacing, and we had to manually style it, right? Instead of that, we can just directly use the description environment. Apart from this, we also saw that it is possible to nest list. That is, we can have bullet points inside bullet points inside bullet points, right? So what is the maximum level of nesting that's possible? So how many levels of unordered list? Yeah, four. Yes. And how many levels of ordered list? That is the numbered list that is available. So how deep can I go? Four levels. Yes. All right. So if we have mixed, it's also possible to have to combine the unordered and ordered list, right? So as seen here, we have outermost list are all unordered. However, the sub list are ordered, right? So it is possible to mix bullet points and numbering. We also saw the customizations of lists. To do that, we use a specific package called enum item, which gives us a bunch of list customizations. We saw how to continue our list, right? How to add like prefix to our numbers, how to take the parent information in the sublist to give step 1.1. Okay. So with this information, let's start the new content for day 3. So let me quickly create a new file. Okay, so let's start with the three commands that make up our LaTeX file. Can anyone tell me what is the first command that we need to start off with? So the first command in our LaTeX file, what should it be? We have already discussed, yes, document plus, right, article. We also discussed that we can give optional inputs to a document class, one being the font size. This is the font size for the text in the document, and all the titles, section headings are set relative to this. Okay. And then in order to start with the main body of the document, what do we do?
Begin document.
Yes, begin document and end document, right? So can anyone tell me what is the preamble of my .text file? What is the preamble region?
From document class up to begin document is the preamble.
Perfect. Okay, and the begin to end, this defines the document environment. Okay. So let's start with a section called text formatting. Right? So what we'll do is we'll do like simple text formatting as you would do in Word. So for instance, say first thing is we will look into ways how we can emphasize our text. Okay. So to emphasize, so this is how the normal text looks like, right? Now, say I would like to make it boldface. Now, almost anything to any styling that you would want to do in LaTeX will have an associated command with it. Okay, so the command is text BF. Okay, the input to the command is the uh, text that you would want to make it bold. So just say bold text, right? Let's see what happens. You can see now it's in bold. Now it is also possible to use a shortcut. Do you see this B button here in the Oleaf UI? We can click on it and it will automatically add the command for bold. So this is similar to what you would do in Word as well, right? Alternatively, we have another way of like converting into bold text in Word. What do? We type in, we select it, and we press Control B. Right? So let's try the same thing. So you can see the last bold text phrase is not exactly in bold, right? So what I would want to do is highlight it, so select it and press Control B. You can see automatically the highlighted text is placed as input to the textpf command. Right? So there are three ways. Either you manually type in the command, or you use this UI button to generate it for you, or you use Control B to add the command to your document. Now, say I would want to make it italics, right? So bold italics, text, IT. So IT is for italicized text. The input is say italics. Right? You can see the input is italicized. You can have multiple words here. Okay. Then alternatively, you can use the I icon here, click on it, it will add the command for you, and then you can put in your text. Right? Alternatively, how would we do it in Word? Another way of doing it in Word is highlighting the text and pressing Ctrl I. So we can do the same thing here as well. Highlight the text that you want to be italicized and say Ctrl I. It will automatically place that highlighted text as input to the text IT command. Okay. So text, the next two characters is either BF for bold, bold-faced, IT for italicized. Okay. Next, we have the underline. So underline is less used than bold and italics. However, we will cover the same as well. So this will be underlined. Okay, you can see again, you have a command. Within the curly brackets, you pass the input to the command. Okay. Now, many a times we would want to get bold and italicized. Any guesses as to how we might do it? Say, so I would want this entire text to be input to a command that gives us bold and italicized. Using all the commands that we have discussed so far, any guesses as to how we might achieve it? Take a minute to think about it.
And
Mm-hmm. So usually, I appreciate the guess. So usually, what happens is you can nest the commands, meaning, so say I say text IT. What does this do? It italicizes, right? However, I want this entire phrase to be bold as well. So what I'll do is I'll then pass it as input to text BF, right? So when you see command inside a command, always work from inside to out. First, evaluate what this will do. The output of this command will be something like this, right? All the italicized. Now, this becomes the input to the text BF command. So, by applying the styling in two parts, we can achieve bold italicized text. Okay. So, always work your nested commands. That is command inside a command inside a command. Always work from inside to out. Alternatively, we could also do like this, right? We can say I, right? Italicize, bold. It doesn't matter the order in which we apply, right? So it doesn't matter you first bold and then italicized or you first italicize and then bold. The output will be the same, right? You can also use the Control I, Control B shortcuts as well. All right. Now, apart from these, it is also possible to use a special kind of emphasizing text called emph. Okay, so if I just do EMPH and say emphasized text. Now, this and the italicized output looks the same, right? Right? Do you see any difference between the output of italicized and the emphasized text? No, right? It's almost the same. It's both like it slanting, slanting, right? Request the participants to uh, yeah. You can unmute and answer, but after that, kindly mute it. All right. So let's say we use this in a sentence. Okay. This is an emphasized, okay, text, something like this. Now, obviously, this is not interesting because it looks much like italics. However, let's see how emphasis varies based on the context it's used in. So, based on the surrounding text, how does it change? So, let's say I pass this whole thing to text ID, right? So, I'm just enclosing this whole thing in a italics. So, let's see how it behaves. So can you tell me what difference do you see in these two outputs, especially regarding the output of the EMPH command? So what emphasis does is in version 1, in this case, it looks in the context it's being used. If the surrounding words are not italicized, then it italicizes its input. However, if the surrounding words are already italicized, then the env command will not italicize the input. So it's context dependent. The reason is our eyes will be drawn to the word which is different from the surrounding words. So that's what it tries to do. So it is context dependent. The behavior of env command is context dependent. However, italics is not context dependent. It will always make the input that is given to it as italicized. However, env is um, context dependent. Okay. So what happens if I just put this input in text BF, right? So in this case, the surrounding text is not italicized. That is why the input to env is italicized. But also note it does not turn off the boldface. It keeps the boldface. Okay. So this is the beauty of env. Env can be used without having to worry about making sure that we emphasize this particular word by changing its font style. It automatically does it for us based on the context it's used. Make sense? Any doubts regarding the EMPH command? All good? All right. So we will not be looking into changing the font of the document because many a times the publisher will already set the font style and everything for you. However, if you are writing an independent document, then if you are interested in changing the font, this is the place you would want to go. So let me drop this in the chat. So most of the fonts that you find, you can like see it in the LaTeX font catalog based on the font family. Okay, if you want sans serif font, right, you can see the sample, right? If you liked any of the samples, you can select it by clicking on that, and then it will say how to use it. Just like anything that we have seen, we need to have like a package. Okay, if any customization, the answer is package. So we need to copy and paste the packages that are needed to import this font into our document. Okay, and then this kind of tells us what are the outputs for different commands. Now what you need to make sure is, if you have mathematical equations in your document, you need to ensure that the font that you select has math supported. If you select a font that does not support math, equations, or symbols, then you will run into a problem. If you want a quick list of all the fonts that has math support, you can select on the first link, fonts with math support. All right. So these are all this is the exhaustive list with all the font support. Okay. Now, one other place that you have to be careful is, you see all these fancy fonts, right? All these fancy fonts. In order to achieve this, you would have to encode your character in a different way. So let's take a small crash course on this menu button in our overleaf. If I click on the menu, right, we have the option to download a source or a PDF. Source implies all our .text files, right, and also the PDF. And we also have the option of word count. So basically the total number of words, and it also says how many of them are in the mathematical equations and inline mathematical equations. We'll come to that shortly. You could also select, right? You could also select the um, your projects in various cloud platforms such as GitHub and Dropbox. What I'm more interested is this part, is the compiler. Remember, I told you that we install a LaTeX distribution that will understand what a LaTeX command is. Now, by default, the software that is used to understand a LaTeX command is PDF LaTeX. Okay, so think of it as this black box engine here, right? So you give the .tex and then it gives us the PDF. Now, why PDF LaTeX? Because the output is of type PDF. Now, apart from that, you have something called as a ZLaTeX and Lua LaTeX. Now, these two are good if you are using foreign languages or languages with like special fonts that we saw here, all these fancy fonts. So these two LaTeX engines will allow um, much more fancier encodings of characters so that you can have fancy looking documents. So if you are using PDF LaTeX and you use any of your font and you get an error, you can shift to ZLaTeX and Lua LaTeX. Now, when you shift, there might be some breakage of commands here and there, so be careful. Okay, so when possible, use a straightforward font as a beginner. But if you would want to try any of the fancy font, you can do so using ZLaTeX or Lua LaTeX. Okay. Now the font size that you see here is the editor font size. So don't expect to change this font size and your output PDF will change, right? So let's start with mathematical equations for now. So far, let's create a section, start off with. Right? So far, what we are doing is just dealing with text. Now, text, LaTeX can process. However, say I would want to have some small equation, say in A is equal to B plus C, right? B and C are independent, okay? And A is dependent, right? So what I've done is I've just written a line which has a bunch, which has equations, and it also has some variable names B and C. The problem is if someone reads this text, they're not able to differentiate whether this A means this variable in our equation or A, right? So what we need to do is we need to ensure that it has a different styling than the rest of the text. So to do that, we need to tell LaTeX that this is no ordinary text, but it is a math equation. So if I say dollar, dollar, okay. So let's just first see what the output looks like and then make changes. Okay. So you can see this A is equal to B plus C. Even if I remove the spacing here, right, in the input, right, in my code editor, if I even if I remove the spacing and then recompile, okay, I see a nice spread out equation. So this is telling LaTeX start an inline math mode. If you would want to start an inline math mode implies that the math mode will be in line with the rest of the text, right? It's not in a separate line, but is in line with the rest of the text. So to do that, we use dollar dollar. And whatever equation that we have goes within the pair of dollars. Make sense? Now, if I would want this A to be in the math mode, how can I do it? So I would say this variable A, okay, this text A, I do not want it to be a normal text, but I want it to be in the math mode. How can I do it?
Use dollar before and after a.
Perfect. So you would say dollar A and end the dollar. So think of dollars as starting the math environment. Okay, so just like how you have quotes, right? Like this. So what does quotes do? Quotes, like you would want to like say some literal things from somewhere, you would use quotes, right? To state someone, things like that. Similarly, here to tell LaTeX that we are starting an inline math mode, just begin dollar, type in your mathematical formula, equation, expression, whatever it might be, and then end it. So here I would say dollar, dollar. You can see how the A is generated is different from the rest of the text, right? Before, the A that was there was something like this, but now it's a bit italicized and it's in a different font. Okay, makes sense? Now, you need to be a bit careful. Say, for instance, B and C, you would want to put it in your math mode. So let me say dollar, dollar. You see what happened, right? So if the spaces got removed and something happened, right? This is not what we wanted. We would want B, okay, we would want something like this. B and C, right? So you don't want and also to be treated as a mathematical expression. Okay, so you need to make sure you only enclose the variables in dollar, right? If you have any other text, even those will be considered as mathematical variables and it will be gendered as such. Now we can overcome this behavior by explicitly starting a text mode. Okay. So in order to use the text mode, we need to use a package called AMS Math. So whenever you're using anything equation related, there are a couple of packages which you can benefit from. One is AMS Math and the other one is AMS Symbol. Okay, so let's just use them. Use package AMS, that is American Mathematical Society. So they have come up with a LaTex package for all the additional math related operations, right? So use package AMS Symbol. You also have AMS font. So all this gives the additional functionality, right? So this text command comes from AMS Math. So let's write that. So backslash text. All right. Now we are getting the output that we want. So what is happening here? Let's try to understand this particular phrase. So if we do $B and C, the intention that and is a word is lost because in mathematical mode, if it sees any characters, it just thinks that it's a variable name. Okay. So there's a comment here. Why are B and C not put inside dollar? So I think at that point I was like, I was going to do it later on. So I hope this is clear that why I did put B and C later on in the dollars. Miss Sushma? Right. I think at that time I hadn't put, but now I have put. All right. So now coming to this dollar. So $B and C, if I put this entire thing in the math mode, the part that and is a word and not a mathematical variable is lost. So to do that, either we enclose only the variables such as this, right? We can do this. That time only B is considered in math mode and is considered in text mode and C is considered in math mode. So obviously this is one too many characters to type. So what is easier is when you have math and text mode mixed in, what you can do is you can just start the math mode. Within that, you can start a text mode. Okay, so to start a text mode, you can just say backslash text, and to it, you can put your input, which is just ordinary text to be displayed. So you can see this is the output here. Only B and C are considered as mathematical variables, whereas and is considered as the word and because we are using it in text mode. Okay. So it all boils down to understanding which mode you are in. If you are normally typing in your code editor, you are by default in the text mode. If you would want to start an inline equation, we can just use $pairs. However, within the math mode, right, you don't want to say do dollar and dollar. So you don't want to do this, break the math mode multiple times. So in order to overcome that, we have the backslash text. So what we can do is within the math mode, we can start the text mode. Any doubts so far? Right? So this is the inline equation. So let's just say, put that here as a subsection. Inline equation. The other one is display type equation. So say this is the equation of a line. If I would want to say y is equal to mx plus c, right? In inline, how would I do? I would just put dollar here and dollar here, right? However, so let's just move this to, let's just keep this here. Say I would like to now display y is equal to mx plus c in a new line by itself. So that is display style equation. So to do that, we start an equation environment. Now within this equation environment, we start typing our equation. So y is equal to mx plus c. So this equation environment also starts a math mode, but it will start it in a new line, right? Let me zoom out a bit. Now, can anyone tell me what are all the changes that will happen in my document because of this equation environment?
The equation is numbered and it's on the next lines.
Very good. So not only was the equation displayed in the next line, I also got an equation number. Now, what does this tell me? If any entity has a number, what can I do with it? I can reference it. So does anyone recall how can I reference an entity? So we did it with sections, right? So let's start with a gentle recap of that. So if I would want to reference this section, how do I go about it? There are two steps, right? The first is
Label.
yes, the label command, right? So I would say backslash label, and to actually give the label, we define some naming convention, right? Entity type colon the name. So here I can just say SEC because it's of type section colon math, right? Okay, fine. Now, in order to make a reference to this, how do I do? Say I would want to add a reference for it here. In basically section 2, right, we discuss adding equations to our documents, right? So basically the section 2, I don't want to write it in a static way. I would want to write it in a dynamic way. So which command will I use? So the label names the entity, right? So SEC math. But in order for us to pick it up, we discussed two variations, right? One is ref, right? To it, we can just select SEC math. Now if I execute it, right? Section 2, we discussed the. Now apart from that, if you want it to be clickable or if you want like the entity to be present, we can use. So which package would you use at this point if you want clickable references? Hyperref, yeah. So use package. Usually, it's a good practice to load or to put the use package hyperref at the end. Okay, because usually the order does not matter. However, with hyperref, what it says is because it is used to do cross referencing, it is nice to load it at the end so that all the other packages that are giving numbered entities are loaded before it. Okay, you can always check the package documentation if there is some inconsistencies with hyperref or with any other packages, and also is there an order for loading the package. Okay. So as soon as we do hyperref, our reference become clickable. Now the hyperref also gives us the command autoref, right? So that we don't have to specifically write section, it will automatically fill in for us. Now let's do the same thing to our equation. Say our goal is to add a reference to our equation. So basically I would say straight line is defined by, okay, so by, and then I would want say equation 1. So something like this, by equation 1, right? So I don't want to do it in a static way. So first thing, what do I need to do? I need to name by equation by using the label. So right next to the equation or just within the equation environment, wherever, you can create a label. So what type of entity is this? It's an equation. So EQ colon line underscore EQ. Now, if we are coming from a programming background, by instinct, we do separate the these individual words by underscore. Another way you can do is something like this: line capital EQ. All right. So once you have the label, we can use ref or autoref to actually make the reference. So EQ line EQ. Okay. Now when I execute this, you can see straight line is defined by equation 1. So if I add another equation before this, right? Say I add another equation here. A is equal to B plus C. Yeah. So you see the equation number associated with y is equal to mx plus c is 2. So that is why here too it is automatically updated. So it's perfect, right? So we don't have to worry about um, making some mistakes. Another thing you have to keep vigilant about is this. So in this case, execute. As soon as I execute, do you see this 2 right next to it? It's not in red, so I know it's not some error, but actually it's a warning. So you need to be very careful about multiply defined labels. So the whole purpose of label is to give a name that will uniquely identify an entity, be it a section, equation, figure, table. Now, if you use the name multiple times, again, you don't know uh, what you're referring to is right or wrong. Okay. So for instance, right, let me move this second equation down below. All right. So the problem here is, do you see I have two equations with the same name? So label EQ line EQ and label EQ line EQ, right? So because this A is equal to B plus C, B plus P, B plus C comes second, it gets associated with this label. And now straight line is defined by equation 2, that is A is equal to B plus C. That does not make sense because that is not the equation that I would want to. I would want Y is equal to MX plus C. Okay. So always be careful of the warnings. I know warnings are not like hard coded, like, are not as disastrous as an error, because but sometimes it can lead to logical errors in your document. So take a look at the warnings, fix them when you can. So in this case, I'll just remove this. Right? And you see everything is perfect. So just because we have labels does not mean we can't make mistakes. This is one of the biggest mistakes that happens when we are writing a large document, right? Or we have multiple contributors. So pay attention to your warnings. Don't just ignore them. All right. Just like anything numbered, right? We can suppress the numbering. Does anyone recall how do we suppress numbering?
We give an asterisk after the command.
Yes, perfect. Right? So if this section, if we do not want it to be numbered, subsection, subsection, we would just put an asterisk right next to that, right? It removes the numbering for us. Similarly, say the second equation, the A is equal to B plus C, we do not want numbers. Okay? So what we do is we just say equation asterisk at both the begin and the end. Okay? So you see, A is equal to B plus C is just in its own line, but it does not have any number associated with it. Okay. So word of caution, if you're using equation asterisk in the begin, it has to be equation asterisk at the end as well. Okay. And this particular environment again comes from AMS math. Okay. All right. So what we'll do is we'll just take about a 5-minute break here. While we are in it, I just want you to try and do this. I would like you to add multiple equations in the same equation environment and let me know if it's possible or not. Okay. So within the same equation environment, I would like to have multiple equations. Okay. Each equation in its own line. All right. So let's take a break now. We'll meet around like um, 2:45. Yeah. So just think about that. Not 2:45, sir. 2:40. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, actually, I had a doubt how to place images side by side. I've
How
written
to?
place the images side by side, ma'am. Images.
Madam, we have not yet gone to images. When we do go to
Uh-huh.
images, I will let you know how to place the images side by side. Because
Okay,
we
but I
haven't even
have
spoken about like
okay.
even including the image in our LaTeX file, right?
Yes, ma'am. But I have done it. But the problem is I'm getting it vertical. So I don't know where is the error. Can I post that error in this chat?
Oh, sure, sure. You can post the error. Tomorrow we will be talking about images. At that time, I will
Okay.
like try to replicate it and solve it for you. Yeah. Please do
Okay,
share
ma'am.
it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hi all. Let's continue. So let's see what happens if we put another line of equation, right? Here, say we would want to put y equals, okay, y minus mx equals to c, right? So this is not what I wanted, right? I would want in another line. So let's put multiple lines and see will it pick it up. Right? We get an error. Let's read the error. It says missing dollar inserted. Bad math environment delimiter. Right? So the thing is, we can't just put multiple lines of equations in an equation environment. An equation environment is just built to put in a single equation with the equation number and all of it. Now, a nice environment when you have multiple equations and you would want to align it and things like that, you can use the align environment. Okay. So for instance, say you are deriving some equations, right? You will have multiple steps. So let's do it here. So begin again. The environment is called align. So to this, say we start off with our y is equal to mx plus c equation. On the next line, say you would want to say A into E is equal to B plus C. Okay, so something like that. All right, so basically I have like two equations and I would want to get one below the other. So let's try with this. Right, I'm still getting everything in one line. So I need to explicitly tell LaTeX that whatever follows should go to the next line. Does anyone recall what symbol to use? We used it in the author environment, in the author command.
Double backslash.
Yes, perfect. So double backslash. So double backslash usually tells LaTeX, go to the next line and then type in the rest of the equation. All right. This is fine, but I would like to make it a bit cleaner as well. Say I would want it such that the equals are aligned. So I need to define the point of alignment. Okay. So right now it's just aligned, I believe, towards the right. Like you see, this is where the alignment is. So instead, I would want the alignment to be at the equals. So we can just say at the point of alignment, you can use the ampersand symbol. Okay. So you see, ampersand, and there I need to also put an ampersand symbol in the next line. So what this tells is the alignment point. So you're defining the alignment point here for the first equation and here in the second equation. So when the equations are rendered, the alignment points are aligned together. Make sense? Now, if I put my alignment point at plus, okay, can anyone tell me what will happen? So I move this and put the alignment point at plus. All right. So let's execute. You can see the pluses are aligned together. So wherever your alignment point is, you indicate using ampersand. All right. You can also do something like this. Okay, so I've just moved the alignment point to equals. Right, and also each line has its own numbering. If you don't want numbering in the entire block, you can use a line star. So you say a line star, just like equation star. Okay. It is also possible to remove the left hand side in an expression. So for instance, instead of say y is equal to say we are trying to derive it in steps. So say you would want to do something like okay, so let's say we have something like this 2 into x plus c plus 3 into x, right? So next line, what you would want to do is you would want to consolidate all the x's together. So 2 plus 3 is 5. So this would be 5 times x plus c, right? So basically what I'm trying to show is you are like many a times we write our equations like this, right? We derive it, we do step by step. So that in that case, you do not have to mention anything on the left hand side. So all you're saying is start with the alignment point with equals to. So it will automatically adjust the spacing for you. All right. Now, this is not the only way. You can like use the split. Okay, you can also use multi-line equations. All have their own benefits. However, if you would want to align multiple equations at specific point or points, use the align environment. Now, apart from this, let's talk a bit about symbols, right? So, say you want the X symbol instead of this asterisk to denote multiplication. Say you would want something like this 2 into X plus C, right? Now, the idea is if I just write, I can't just write X because it becomes a variable X and not the symbol X, which denotes times. So to actually denote that particular symbol, we use the command times. Okay. So the spacing doesn't matter in the before. Yeah. Now you can see I have the nice multiplication symbol. Right. So this is not the only symbol possible. There is a very exhaustive list and they all have commands, right, to achieve them. So we will look into a few and I will also introduce some helper tools for you to use it like, so you don't have to memorize them all. Right. Apart from that, like, for your Greek alphabets, right, you have alpha. So say symbols, right? So if I just say alpha, I automatically get an error. Alpha must be inside math mode. So can anyone tell me how to fix this error? So alpha is a command that gives me the mathematical symbol, okay, basically the Greek symbol which we use in math, the alpha. But it says this command should be inside a math mode. So by
Can
default,
we
the
use
entire,
dollar?
yes, perfect. So whenever it says math mode, your mind should go to, if it's inline, use dollar. If it's display, use begin equation. So we just put it in dollar, right? So you get the alpha, the beta, right? And the gammas. So you get the whole gist, right? So you can have it all. Apart from that, if you would want some help with the symbols, you can always use this detechify link. Okay, so um madam, this image is not being like being one below the other. Can you please share the code in um, WhatsApp, please? Because I will be able to take a look at it only at the end of the session, right? So we will lose the code once we terminate the session. That's why.
Okay, ma'am, sure, ma'am. Share it in.
Yeah. So where was I? Yeah, the detechify. Right. So what this does is you draw the symbol here wherever this draw here is there, say alpha, right? So it gives you it kind of like does a classification and tries to give you the a score, meaning it says when I draw alpha there are multiple ways to generate alpha using just the alpha command. Okay, so let's just analyze this. So it says use the alpha command but use it in math mode, right? So whenever you see math mode, it means you need to use it in dollar dollar or in a begin equation or align, whatever. Apart from that, this is also if you want like this fancy alpha, you can use this use package uppercase Greek, okay, and use up alpha as the command. Now what it does is it kind of tries to do a similarity check. So this is my image, this is what I have drawn, and it will try to check against each of the existing images in its database. And then whichever matches the best, it will give you a score. You can see this. So based on the score and all of it, it will like try to sort it and give you the output. Okay. So usually the first one might not always be the right one. In our case, see, it is right, but it is not the easiest way to do it. So you can like take a look at the results and pick the one that makes best sense to you. Especially when you're drawing with like using the mouse, it's not exactly accurate, right? So if I want to write beta, right? So it's not exactly accurate the way we draw as well. So it will just give us a few options based on a similarity check it runs, right? So it says beta. Now, this one, if say we decide to use this command. Now, do I need to put this command in dollar dollar or in a math mode? So what does it say just below this thing? It says use in text mode. Whenever it says text mode, it just means that you can use it as is. Whenever it says math mode, that means we need to use it in dollar dollar. For this, it's not needed. For this, it's needed. For this, again, not needed, right? Wherever it says math mode, make sure that you use the particular equation between dollars or equation and value. That's the only the thing. Yeah. Right. Now, apart from this, let's try to build an equation with subscripts and superscripts. So, let's start with subscript. So, begin equation. So say I would want to have something as y I. Okay, so y I. So I is the subscript for y. Let's start with y. I need to tell LaTeX that whatever comes next is the subscript. So I can just say underscore I. And then I can just type in the rest of the equation. Say mx plus c. So let's see how this works. You can see, let me zoom in a bit. The I has been added as the subscript. So if you want to add a subscript, use underscore. Now, if you want to use a superscript, okay, so let's do the same thing. But to indicate that I now want something like this, y I in the superscript. So if I want to do this, then I need to say that I goes on top of y. So that is why we use the hat symbol. So right next to y, I just put in the hat symbol. All right. You can see I now have a superscript. Now the beauty of LaTeX equation is you can copy it and put it into your Word document. You can put it in your website. You can put it in like Google Docs. It's very ubiquitous, right? Now it is possible that we can have multiple subscripts, right? So for instance, like in this part of the equation, uh, request you all to mute, please. All right, say we can have multiple subscripts, right? For instance, this X part right here, I would like to have the subscript, say X 10, something like this. Okay, so the subscript has the value 10. Let me just write that. So in order to put subscript, I can say underscore and say 10. Let's see if this works. Doesn't work as we want it to, right? Because in the 10, the 1 was a part of the subscript, but the 0 was not part of the subscript. Now, when you have multiple entities in your subscript, you need to enclose it in curly brackets. Right? So say you would want it I comma j, you can still do it, but you need to enclose it in curly brackets. Right? The same thing for superscript. Now, if I say I would want the superscript to be I comma j for x, can anyone tell me how can I do that? So I would want to say x I comma j in the superscript. So what is the what do we use to indicate to LaTeX that we would want to start a superscript? Do we use underscore or hat or a cap, whatever you say, hat?
Hat.
Hat, right? So we use a hat. Now, a superscript, does it have multiple entries in it? Yes, it does. So we need to enclose it in
Curly bracket.
perfect, in curly brackets. So in curly brackets, I write I comma j. Right? You can see it comes in superscript. Right? Now, it is possible for something to have both subscript and a superscript, right? So say I would want to do something like this. Y, I, J. So I should go as a superscript and J should go as the subscript, right? So we start off with y, and it doesn't matter what we write first, the subscript or the superscript, right? So say we start off with the superscript. So I, the hat, and y hat I. So what this tells me is, okay, LaTeX, draw the y, and then you see the hat. So you need to write it in the superscript. Then I would have to tell LaTeX, okay, now come back to subscript. So I need to say underscore j. All right, let's see if this works. Right, it works. Now, if this is a bit confusing, you will feel like j is a like subscript for I or something like that. You can always enclose it in curly brackets. Make sense? Now, for this I again, we can have subscript and superscript. So, say for this I up top, if I want a subscript for it, how can I do it? So, what is the symbol for subscript?
Underscore.
Underscore. So within this curly brackets, I go to I and say underscore, say U. So what will happen? This I up top will have its own subscript, right? So each entry, even this U will have its own subscript, superscript. So you can do this repeatedly, okay? Make sense? Any doubts?
Can you explain one?
Uh, Sorry, someone said anything? I heard. All right. All good? Okay.
Once again, the subscript and the
Subscript and the superscript, sir.
I'm
All right. So whenever a mathematical, when you are in math mode and you write a variable, say y, x, m, whatever it might be, each character has a subscript that goes in the bottom and superscript location. Now, if I would want LaTeX to explicitly say, okay, go to this subscript location and write, then I need to use underscore, y underscore. Okay. Then I can say y underscore 1 or I. So let's say y underscore I. If I do this, then it shows yi. So I is parked down here. Now, if I would want a superscript attached to a character, I use the hat symbol right next to the character and say J. So what happens? J gets parked up top. U, J. Is this much clear? Yeah. Okay. So underscore subscript hat superscript. Okay. Now once we have this in place, we need to understand one thing. If our subscript or superscript has multiple entries, like 10, we have multiple characters here, right? 1 and 0, or 100, or I comma j. So when a superscript or subscript has multiple entries, when we write them, we need to enclose them in curly brackets. So y, say I would want to say y10 like this. So y underscore and put your 10 in curly brackets. Right? Now, if it is superscript, sir, can you try to answer? So y, say I would want to say y superscript 100. So what is the symbol should I use for superscript? So what symbol should I use for the superscript?
hat symbol.
Hat symbol, okay? And then should I enclose it in curly brackets or can I just say 100 like this?
The curly
Now,
brackets.
curly brackets, because there are multiple entries here. There is 1, 0, 0. Right? Is this clear? So now again, if I want to say I something like this, again there are multiple entries here. So superscript I comma j. So y hat I comma j in curly brackets. Okay? Makes sense?
Hmm.
All right. So the last step is, what if we would want to fill both the superscript and the subscript? Right? So it is possible, it does not matter which one we fill first, right? So say we would want y, I, j like this. All it matters is that I goes to superscript and j goes to subscript. That's all it matters, right? So we start with y because that is the character that has subscript and superscript. Then we say underscore j, right? It doesn't matter if we start with which. So underscore j implies j will go here. And then as soon as it sees the hat symbol, the control goes up top here. And then we say I. And then I gets filled in here. If you want to be more thorough, you can enclose each of them in their own curly brackets if you want. Okay. So a character, if it needs both the subscript and the superscript, we just say underscore whatever goes in the subscript hat whatever goes in the superscript. Right? Is this clear? All right. So what I would recommend is go back, take an equation, try to convert it, right? And then you use it, try to convert it using LaTeX and then display. Try to match that equation in hand. Okay? So let's again write an equation such as this. A is equal to B divided by C, right? So let's start with our math mode. We would want to say begin equation right? So say you would say B divided by C, right? Okay, but then I would want it in a vertical fashion with B on top and then the horizontal line and C, the way that I have written. So to achieve that, you can use something called as the fraction. So backslash frac, okay, backslash frac is the command name. The syntax is the first input is the numerator and the second input is the denominator. All right. So let's do that. Say what is the numerator is B and the denominator is C. Right. It says B divided by C. Say if we have B plus D divided by C, right, it automatically extends the horizontal line for you, so on. Right. Now, apart from this, it is also possible to have the summation operator, that is this. So say I would like to do something like this, right? Y is equal to, right, xi, I equals to 1 to 10 plus, say C. Right? Say I have an equation such as this. Let's try to implement that. So begin equation y equals to. Let's try to build this step by step. So we need the summation symbol, right? So we can use backslash sum. Okay. So let's see what do we get by just doing this. So we get the summation symbol. Now the summation has a subscript and the superscript. So when I put underscore, can anyone tell me what will go into the subscript part?
Curly braces I is equal to 1.
Perfect. So we need to say curly brackets because we have multiple. Now, to get the 10 on top, how can I do that?
Half 10.
Huh? And then
Curly
curly,
braces.
yeah, 10. So let's see what do we get. Perfect, right? We have built a summation symbol. Now that we can just go x underscore I, right? Plus c. Right? So we have built it. Now there is another uh, tool that we can use that helps you. So the detechify is good if when you would want to uh, find out which symbol to use and all of it. This link is good if you would have a bunch of the whole expression such as this. So let's see what happens when I write my expression here. Say I say y is equal to summation I equals to 1 to 10 x I plus c. Right? So you can see that this one, whatever handwritten one I have here, has been converted to a mathematical expression here. And if I just click on math, math here, right, you can pick up the LaTeX expression. So let's just pick this up, come back to our here, right, and paste it, right? So it is basically whatever we have written before, but instead of me writing it, I wrote it like, as I would write on paper, and then it gave me the corresponding LaTeX command. So I find this tool very handy. However, there is always, you should understand whenever you write something here using your mouse, it is not that accurate. So sometimes you might have to make your own revisions. So copy paste it, always take a look whether you are getting the intended result or not. Right? So you can play around with this particular website. And you could also use Detectify in combination just in case you would have to use any packages and the package info is not present here. So you can use both of them in combination. So say we would want, yeah, just play around with it with whatever, because you all come from different backgrounds. So based on your domain knowledge, you can put your equations and try to play around with it. Now, apart from this, there's also another very nice website called MathPix. So MathPix, what it lets you do is you can take images, right, of math, text, table, whatever it might be. You can feed it to it, and you will get the corresponding LaTeX code from it. So you're converting an image to your LaTeX code. So you can log in and create an account. Okay, we can just go to the console. Go to convert. So they've changed the UI a bit from the last time I used. So they had, you have to set up your billing. So the last time I used, they had a free version that you could use. So in fact, you can give a whole PDF, right? So this is the API. That's not what we want. Yeah. Okay, open Snip Web. Okay, perfect. So apparently we have to go to the Snip Web and do it. So the problem is I don't usually use these unless like, to show beginners how to do it. Because I've been using LaTeX for quite some time, these are all good if your document is straightforward. However, if your document is a bit complex, then I find it harder to kind of like fix the code rather than writing the code by myself. However, you can like start off with a small document, see if it works for you, and if it works, you can just like use it. So, for instance, let's say we take an image. Um, Okay, so let's say just scroll down. Take a screenshot of like, say we would want this, okay, or the whole thing, right? We can download. Then what you can do is so desktop screenshot. Yeah. Yeah. So just upload the image, right? Once we have this image, you can like copy the equation, right? Here you can see different types. Here you can also export. So so I want to take the equation block here. So I copy that code, go back to my LaTeX file, paste it here, right? You can see that the equation is correctly generated, right? but sometimes you have to double check them because the superscript or subscripts or like some symbols that they're using might not match, so always double check. Okay, so just to recap, all you have to do is go to snip. Even to get to that, so if you go to math picks, right, so under products, go to snip, right, open snip web. Down here you have something called as open snip web, right? So it will ask you to log in. Once you log in, this is the image that you get. This is the dashboard that you get. And down here, you have the option to upload your entire research paper, right? Entire research paper. If you have a sample and you can, because it's a free version, they have like how many conversions that you can do. So explore. So you can upload the entire um, PDF, and then it will give the corresponding LaTeX code for you to generate that particular PDF. Or if you want a specific equation, you can take a snapshot of it or create handwritten equation, right? Yeah. So there is some usage reduction and all of it. Yeah, you can explore. So right now what I did is I created a snip by image upload. So all you have to do is upload the image that you would want to extract the equation from, and once you do it, it converts it for you. Now here there are multiple versions of it. So I just took the one which says LaTeX block math, that is the LaTeX numbered equation. You can also have inline equation. Do you see this text mode? This is the inline equation. Pretty handy. If this is very accurate for localized conversion for entire research paper. Say you have a paper, you upload PDF and you would want to convert it. I wouldn't say it's 100% accurate. You would have to debug. So if you upload a large document, obviously the onus is on you to find the error and debug and things like that. Right? However, as a beginner, I would say start off with like helping you double check your work or to guide your work. If you overly depend on this, you will not be learning anything. So do not use it to do all your conversions. Do the conversions yourself and use this to double check your work. Right? Obviously, if you're pressed for time, you can use this to help you generate the papers faster. All right. You can also look into other so there are these LaTeX symbol picker types. Right, you have these cheat sheets that you can look into. There are a lot of help. There are a lot of help for to write this LaTeX symbols. This is a comprehensive list, I think. Right, it's all under different um, categories. So Greek letters category, arrows category. So there is a lot of support for you to write your equations faster. It's all about knowing them. So you can start with some of the resources that I have given you and then do a little like research on your end as well. So to come across some kind of utilities that works best for you. Right? Any doubts at this point? Because I can feel like all of you are playing with this math picks or like your my script, the math demo, right? I would encourage you to explore both these platforms, right? If you have any doubts, you can ask at this point. And if you don't have any, then I would like to address this question about footnotes, right? So someone had put in WhatsApp regarding footnotes. So if you would want to add a footnote, say in a section, this is where a footnote will be, right? So the command is footnote. The input to the command is the text that will go in the footnote. All right, let me just zoom out. You can see that it will start like sequentially numbering it. So for instance, this is where another footnote will be. So wherever you would want the footnote to be, you start the footnote command, the input to whatever text you would want it appear in the footnote. Say another footnote. Right? All these footnotes are again clickable because of hyperref. Yeah. Now, because footnote is numbered, you can do a bit more. You can assign label to your footnote and make a reference to it. So there's this thing about cross-referencing footnotes. So that's something called as you can usually use a foot MIC miscellaneous package. Anything to do with footnotes, you can use this foot miscellaneous package. You can also use another package called cleverref. Now cleverref is an alternative to hyperref. Okay, so we can sometimes if we use them both, we might run into errors. So let's see if we can use them both. It's clever ref with only one R. Okay. So say we want to go here. I can add a label here. So backslash label. Okay. So we can say footnote note. So here we can say adding a reference to another footnote, to an earlier footnote. And you can use cref footnote. Okay, so however, you would want it to be a footnote, right, and not a reference. So let's use foot. Maybe we can use cleverref with one of the options, but let's see with foot miscellaneous. I've used this before and I know it works. Okay, that's fine. We are using cref. That's no longer this thing. Is this fref? Let me double check. Footref. Okay. Okay, footref. Right. Now what happens is you can reuse the numbers. So say you have had a footnote in an earlier part, say you would want to make a reference to the same footnote, you can do it, okay, without you having to repeat it. So both of them will point to the same footnote text. See? I will also share a link to this blog, which gives you much more customizations with footnote, like if you want to remove the horizontal line, change the font size, so on and so forth. Right? That's pretty much it from my end for this session. If you have any questions, please ask me. Otherwise, feel free to drop a message on WhatsApp and I'll get back to you in tomorrow's lesson. Geeta ma'am, I will take a look and I will get back to you tomorrow regarding why the images are not coming. So you would want the images next to each other, but you're getting one below the other, right? All right. Vidya ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. So,
Yeah.
any doubts? Yeah, I think there is no doubts in today's session. So,
Yes.
shall we wind up?
Yes, ma'am.
So, ma'am, are you going to give any assignment for today?
So for today, assignment could be like, to write an equation of your own, like to implement an equation. If you want in doc, I will share the doc in the Google Drive. I'll upload the document.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that is better if you can upload it. So,
I'll upload.
maybe, ma'am, end of the session, can we have everything as one document?
Uh, everything
May-
as one.
Yeah, so now they would have already started with one assignment. They can continue in the same thing, right?
It's the same. So basically, in assignment one, they will write I believe they had to create a section and do that. In assignment two, in the same project, in the
Hmm.
same project that they have created for assignment one, they can add an equation.
List.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
In tomorrow's,
Equation.
it will be to add a table and figure, so they can keep on adding to the same project and in the same file. They don't
Hmm.
have to create.
And later on, I think the final day you can share the overleaf link
Yes.
via mail.
Yes.
Yeah. So hope it is clear to everyone. Any doubts in anything? Please, if you have any doubts, please post it either in WhatsApp or you can mail it. Please feel free to clear all your doubts. So I think
Yes.
for today we can wind up the session, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you all participants. So we'll meet again tomorrow afternoon, 1:30 p.m. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.